My fiance and my father tried to take the money from my inheritance to run away together, but they didn't count on one thing. My father and I never had a good relationship because he cheated on my mother when I was just 13 years old. Not only did he not apologize, but he explicitly said he didn't care about her feelings and didn't care about me either. After that, he left home, and in the divorce, he tried to take everything, even our house, knowing that we probably wouldn't have anywhere to live if he did. However, my mother ended up winning the right to keep the house, and we cut off contact with him after that. Initially, it was very difficult for me. Despite saying all those things, he was a good father before the divorce process began. He used to take me to play baseball, play with me, listen to my concerns, and more. He had his problems, but I still liked him, and being away from him for so long hurt me a lot. However, time passed, and I eventually moved on from all of it. When I entered college, my mother passed away in an accident, leaving me a significant inheritance and life insurance that helped me a lot, even though it left me practically alone. In college, I met a girl, Julia, who I thought was perfect at the time. She had everything I always liked, and we officially started dating shortly after. She only had one problem: she insisted that I marry her soon. She wouldn't let me publicly acknowledge our relationship, kiss, or hold hands, demanding that we get married before all of that. I found it all very strange, but having had no previous relationships, I thought this might be common in romantic situations. By this point, I had already met her family, and they were genuinely amazing. She only had one problem: she insisted that I marry her soon. She wouldn't let me publicly acknowledge our relationship, kiss, or hold hands, demanding that we get married before all of that. I found it all very strange, but having had no previous relationships, I thought this might be common in romantic situations. By this point, I had already met her family, and they were genuinely amazing. Taking all this into account, we planned the wedding. However, 2 weeks before the wedding, I decided to surprise my fiancée with coffee at her workplace since I was in the area. When I arrived, for the first time in years, I found my father embracing and kissing my fiancée. I left the premises immediately, and when she returned home, I waited for her to sleep and checked her phone. Apparently, she had been my father's girlfriend even before meeting me, and all this time, both she and he were only interested in my inheritance money. After marrying me and getting a divorce, they planned to run away together. Now, I have a plan. I will wait until the wedding and expose her and my father on the ceremony screen, showing all the evidence. I want her to feel the same way I felt, and I don't care if her image is tarnished forever. Finally, the day of my wedding arrived, and I planned to reveal everything she had done on the ceremony screen. However, when it was time to say our vows, my fiancée said something she probably found online, and I, of course, pretended to be moved. When it was my turn to speak, that's when everything started. I said I had prepared a video and asked my friend to play it. The reactions were diverse, with many people crying, many people shouting and calling my fiancé various names, many of my friends going to confront my father, who by this point was already being judged by his own colleagues, and so on. My wife tried to say it was all lies, but all the evidence was there: videos, photos, conversations. Her parents said she was not to set foot in their house ever again, and she was disowned from the will. She tried to ask for forgiveness, saying she had nowhere to go if I left her, but I didn't respond. I just left the altar and walked away. As far as I know, both my father and my ex-fiancée were fired, and the case became relatively famous in the neighborhood where my father lives, prompting him to move to a much smaller house in another state. My ex-fiancée showed up at my house a few times, saying my father didn't want to take her with him and that she only had me, but after a few encounters, I ended up getting a restraining order against her. Now, I am relatively happy. Of course, I am sad to have been deceived for so long, but I am glad that everything went relatively well.